Good morning, good morning. Welcome to another beautiful morning. We are on day 24 of my parenting challenge. And today we are still in part 4 of this challenge in which we're looking at specific challenges parents have. And today we're looking at sibling rivalry specifically. The secret to sibling rivalry, I do have it. It's not to have more than one child. I'm just kidding. 5% kidding. Anyways, I always wanted to have 6 kids, and then I had 2 and I stopped there. So I do work with lots of families with 3, 4, up to 5, 6 kids, and it's unbelievable. It's amazing. You guys are super parents for those of you who have more kids. But if you do have more than just one, there are some things that we can be doing to help support our kids. Now, the first thing we really need to think about is kids' perceptions about their siblings and about their role within the family, right? Their siblings, their perceptions of their siblings is a major source of discouragement. And when we're looking at behavior problems, it's usually because we have discouraged kids. So for the eldest child, it sucks because they always have to be on their best behavior. They need to be responsible to not fight with their younger sibling, right? And they just have to give over whatever it is that they're doing. Just give them the toy. Just don't fight, right? Walk away. Don't hit. There's a lot more expectations on the older kid telling, you can play later. Just give your sister the toy, right? They have to watch over their younger siblings, even from a young age. Hey, just watch your sister while I run and have a shower, right? They have to include them in all of their activities. They have to watch younger movies. Maybe they're not watching the movies that they want to watch. They have to listen to baby music, right? They're not able to do the things that they want to enjoy. Middle kids have it hard too. They often get stuck in the middle. They don't get to do the things that the older kids get to do, and they don't get the same attention that the baby does either. They feel like sort of the misunderstood wallflower of the family. They feel like everything is so much harder for them, and their role is to be the problem, right? But you know what? It's awful to be the baby. They don't get any of the good stuff that their older siblings get to do. They have to wait until they're older for everything. They get bossed around, not just by mom and dad, but also their older sibling. They're cute, right? They're really cute and they get a lot of attention, but it's really hurtful because when they make mistake, maybe people are laughing at them, or they'll laugh if they ask a baby question, right? They get all the hand-me-downs. They want to be included. All the elders get to do everything. They get to have play dates. That's a big one in my house, actually. My older one has a lot more sleepovers. We're at the cabin right now, and she actually has a friend who's coming tomorrow night to stay for the rest of the weekend. And she usually has a friend stay with us at the cabin, whereas my younger one has never had a friend over at the cabin, right? And it's just because she's still little. It's not that she can't have a friend. It's just finding other families who are comfortable with their kids coming to the cabin with us. So it doesn't matter where they are in that line. It sucks based on their perception. There's a lot of discouragement. So what do we do? I mean, again, if you've been working on the relationship, then you've been showing lots of attention to all of your kids and love, so you've started to minimize some of the fairness piece. But the fairness is a huge one, right? I always talk about how fair is not equal, right? So it might not be fair that me and my older daughter have to wear glasses compared to my younger one who doesn't. It's not fair because we get the cool glasses, but it's equal because it's allowing us to see. It might not be fair that daddy gets the bigger cake, but it's equal because he actually has a bigger stomach, right? So he gets to eat more because that's what his body needs and his metabolism needs. So it can be really helpful to sit down as a family and create a chart of expectations and privileges that you agree on as a family. So it's not that we are favoring your sister and that's why she gets a phone. It's she is at this age. So if you create a chart of expectations, at this age is bedtime, at this age is phone or screen expectations, or the rating of TV shows, right? At this age, you can watch PG-13 or general. At this age, you can start watching the PG-14 or the mature 14 or upwards. So creating that, then it's very concrete and explicit, and there's no favoritism, right? And so we want to minimize that as much as possible because that's usually where a lot of that discouragement comes from. The other thing is siblings are constantly comparing each other, right? So we want to make sure we are not comparing at all because that's just fueling the fire. And we do things all the time. Even, we could be talking to a friend or a parent saying, like Maya never did that when she was that age. Kids are hearing these messages. Or we even say, well, Jimmy got all of his chores done already, right? that's a comparison, and kids really take that to heart. I always fall back on family meetings. Again, if you're practicing that, you can think through things together. If you were able to see our demonstration, we actually were working on how are we going to get along, right? So it takes you out of the equation of being fair or unfair, because that's where a lot of those discouragements come from. And they are starting to create their own plan that they can agree on, right? So we can really use that to our advantage. In the heat of the moment, kids don't have the skills to engage in conflict resolution. As parents, we often don't even, we just go to the fight. So when they're upset, it's really hard to do anything productive. So the problem solving has to come later on. But we need to practice, just like I've talked about practicing skills and behavior skills in the past. We need to do the exact same thing when we're working on sibling rivalry. So I mentioned this in the previous challenge where, I will actually set up situations where one brother or sister is going to come purposely piss off their sibling, and they have to work through the strategies that we've talked about and taught them on their own. And it's so funny when I set it up, especially in my office, I'm going to be like, okay, bud, you're going to come and kick over your brother's Lego. And then he's like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. That's so mean. I'm like, well, you do it every other second that you're breathing at home. Why is it a difference here? So it's kind of funny when we're setting up those situations, but now they're able to practice and they can actually see how the process is on their own without you having to jump in, and that they can successfully solve those conflicts. That's going to be really important. In the heat of the moment, like I said, they really aren't going to be able to manage those conflicts very effectively unless they've got lots of practice. And we don't want to jump in and stop the situation, because we're always going to have to jump in and stop the situation. They will always be dependent on us, right? So that's the first thing. We're creating dependency. The other thing is we could be rewarding their behavior inadvertently, right? I know when my older daughter starts yelling, it's a little bit more attention seeking. If I jump in, I'm giving her some of that attention. So we want to make sure that we're not rewarding the behavior. They do need to figure out. And if you hear that fight escalating, it's probably because they want you to step in, but you're not teaching them anything. I'll let it go for a little while. If my older one starts to yell, like I said, it's attention seeking. But if I do hear that they're genuinely really stuck and they're trying to work it out, that's when I will jump in, but not to tell them what to do. I'm there as a coach. So I'll come over and say, it sounds like you guys are stuck, and then ask, how are we going to, solve this? My girls are old enough now that they can start to figure it out, and they know that I really have no tolerance for their fighting. Literally, if I'm driving and they're fighting in the car, I will pull over and get out of the car. I leave the situation so that I don't fuel it. And they know that they need to come to some agreement, and one of them will come out, whoever's on the shoulder. I try to go into a parking lot so it's safe, but if I don't, on the side of the street, whoever's close to the curb will be the one who gets out and say, okay, Mom, we're ready. We figured it out. We're calm. You can come back now, right? So that they are working it out. Now, it's been a lot of practice. They were able to get to that place where they can start solving those conflicts. Because me jumping in doesn't teach them anything, right? It's just learning that Mom has to solve our problems for us. They still need to sort it out. That's where the problem, the family meetings can be really helpful in the first place. If I am there to coach and start helping mediate a situation, as soon as they're blaming, I'm not listening to them. I'm like, hey, I'm not here to hear the story. I just want to let you guys know that you're stuck, and I'm here if you need me to help you figure it out. Sometimes kids really do need to separate, right? In that case, instead of telling one or the other to leave, because that's only going to create conflict, and then they're going to say that you're taking sides. You need to tell them that you're here to help, but maybe, I can help one of you in a different room, for example, or I'm going to set up different activities in different rooms just to help that separation. When everyone's calm, that's when we can come together and problem solve for another time. And again, that practice is going to be really important. Now, of course, if there's any danger or, there's hitting or things like that, oftentimes we go and we scold the child who's hit their brother, right? Or hit their sibling. But we don't want to feed into the defeatedness that those kids have, or that self-perception that I'm the bad kid. And we don't want to be rewarding any behaviors. So instead of scolding that child, remember, in the heat of the moment, we don't want to escalate any of the situation. We want to be as neutral as possible. So the easiest thing is to actually go to the crying child, not saying anything, scooping up the crying child, hugging, making sure that that child's okay, giving your attention to that child. As long as they're not hamming it up and oh my gosh, my brother hit me, and really like the brother just looked at him and nothing actually happened. You don't want to be reinforcing those attention seeking. So it's kind of playing detective and knowing what's going on in that situation. But really, I mean, we want to be able to diffuse the situation as quickly as we can. Sometimes having a code word can be really helpful. In my house, it's puppy. So as soon as we see things escalating, and I think I've talked about this, the kids will say puppy, right? Or, as adults, maybe if we jump in and say it, they'll get upset with that. But if you have those cue words over time, kids are going to realize, oh yeah, that's my cue. I need to separate, or we need to break up. Some families have red chair because that's where they go and have their feelings, they go and talk about their feelings. But as soon as you start seeing those things to spiral, and when you do problem solve, you want to listen to both kids, right? You want to be empathetic to both, because they do feel like you are going to be taking the other sibling's side. You want to share responsibility amongst everybody, right? So you're not listening to fault or taking sides at all, even though if it's clearly one child over the other. We don't want to start fueling these misperceptions. So we're not going to judge the situation or put blame on one child or the other. We're going to focus on helping each child through the situation while protecting your relationship with each of them. So even if one was the instigator and punched the other in the face and the other got a bleeding nose, obviously that child's really distressed as well, the angry one, right? The one who became aggressive. No, it's not cool that he punched his brother, but in that moment we need to support both of them, right? In a healthy way, so neither of them are feeling that they're the neglected one. Sometimes, again, we do need to separate them and talk with them separately. So if it's too hard to listen empathetically to both of them at the same time, maybe you're having those conversations later on separately. And once they get into the habit of problem solving, they can start using this process on their own, and oftentimes you do have to start as that mediator, but kids are really creative and they can come up with some great ideas. My girls over the years, even when they were younger, thought of some great ideas. Like they would develop a rock, paper, scissor system, before they got too escalated. They'll realize, okay, we're stuck. Let's rock, paper, scissor it out. One thing, I hate when people equate dog training, or I always did before I had dogs, dog training and kids. I remember a woman who got a puppy and was doing the click training. She's like, oh my gosh, we got to do this with kids. She didn't have any children. I was horrified. But now that I've got dogs, I understand. But one of the things, if our dog has one of the kids' clothes or something, that they're ripping apart, we have learned we just need to get something else, like a treat, and the dog will immediately release whatever it is that we want to have, and we'll give them the treat. So, my kids had learned early on, well, if my sister wants this toy, okay, I'm going to maybe see something else. Or it's a matter, I always talk to the girls, the more you show interest in that thing, the more your sibling is going to fight with you about it. So then it's like, well, it's okay, you can have it. I didn't want it anyways. It's the same thing that I coach with parents. No skin off my back, even though inside you're like, oh my gosh, that's my favorite toy, don't touch it. But as soon as we show like, nah, whatever, the other sibling's going to lose interest, right? It's like that doll that's sitting in the floor that hasn't been touched for weeks. And then all of a sudden one goes to pick it up and the other's like, I was just going to play with that, right? It never happens. So we can coach our kids through different things, and then they can try and sort of practice those things. We definitely don't want our kids to be in a competition. Let's see who can clean their room first. We want to be cooperating as much as we can, where they have to work together. So it's maybe we're not going to go out for an outing. My girls want to go play frisbee today. So we're not going to go until these things happen. So you guys got to figure it out. And it's amazing how cooperative they can be when we both want to go and do this thing, right? And have that goal. And I talk a lot about pairing fun activities with each other too. So maybe you can never play Xbox unless you're together, right? So we're pairing fun activities that they have access to only when they're getting along together, right? Because it's not just pairing the activity. Now we're pairing each other with fun. I actually have fun with you. So we want to do those types of things as much as we can. Maybe you're putting, doing like a locked room where they have to work together, right? Or there's a lot of those team building activities, how do you get across this line working together? So those types of cooperative type of things are going to be really important, where they need to have each other to be successful. I remember a locked room that I did as a family, you actually had to have 3 or 4 people because you would never get out of the room, because one person had to have their hand touching the tree, and then all 4 of us were holding hands, and the other person had to touch the other tree on the other side to actually unlock the box. And so no one person could reach both trees, right? We had to work together to be able to do that. So as much as you can, creating those types of things. At my house, we have a sister love jar too, right? Where every night, or as part of our gratitude ritual, we're putting in stones into the jar, and we're highlighting all the great things that our sibling did for us that day, things that we appreciate, or when they were being nice, or when they got along. And then I've got a huge jar, but it's graduated. So when it gets to here, they get to watch their favorite show. When it gets here, they get to watch maybe a movie they wanted to watch. And when they fill it up, we get to go and do something fun that we wouldn't normally do, right? So there's a little bit of motivator reinforcement there, but they're actually starting to genuinely look for those opportunities where we're getting along, which is really important. Now, as much as it's important for our kids to be together and getting along, it's not always about the big exciting moments. We need to make sure they have small little positive moments. The research has shown over the long term, it's those small frequent moments that really help build their relationship in the long term. And if you think about it, the sibling relationship is the most important relationship your children will have. It's the longest relationship they'll have, even from you guys, right? So siblings are usually the ones that we want to be fostering their relationship as much as possible. And that's one of the things. It's just small little moments every day. And the jar helps us really capitalize on those small little moments. But as important as all of this is, it's really important that kids also have their own space and their own time separated from each other, right? I know I've fallen into the trap where my older one will have those sleepovers. Well, even at the cabin, we're talking about you still got to include your little sister, even though your friend is coming, right? So, but I know that I told her to come to me because there will be times where her and her friend are just going to want to go and do their own thing as well. So that time away is going to be really important. So for today, I find that I've been really talking a lot lately, so I'm going to try to wrap it up. I want you to talk about your kids, how you can have a great day together, how you can all get along, how you can cooperate together, and maybe setting up activities and again, experimenting what works, what doesn't work. And maybe you can even start practicing conflict situations. So if you always have, one brother grabbing the other's Lego, or the other one singing and annoying the other one, maybe you're setting up those situations where they're going to do that, but the other sibling, who usually loses their mind, has to keep their cool. And then alternate, right? Switch. So it's not just one child who has to practice. So go have an awesome day. Good luck, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.